Welcome to Elite Expert Insider Podcast, where we will inspire, motivate, and educate entrepreneurs, innovators, and growth seekers. Brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, making the best and brightest in the industry #1 best-selling authors. 80% of people say they want to write a book. We're assuming that's the same for you. If so, contact us at www.eliteonlinepublishing.com and make your book a reality. Hey, it's Melanie Johnson along with Jen Foster. Hey, Jen, you hanging out here?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So we're going to learn how to make your website rock. And I don't mean like the visual part necessarily, but the back end called SEO. So those of you who don't know what SEO means, it's search engine optimization. So remember to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done that. Let's get that out of the way. And if you're going to write a book, remember to look up Jen and I on Elite Online Publishing because we make all our authors #1 bestsellers and teach them how to use their book for their business. So make sure you do that. But today, Sam McRoberts, he is the CEO of Voodoo Marketing and the author of Screw the Zoo. Oh my gosh, I just love his book cover. You got to go check that out. Screw the Zoo on Amazon. His book cover is one of the best book covers I've ever seen. And he's been doing online marketing since 1999. So he is an expert. We're going to learn how to audit your website and outrank your competitors. So let's get started and dive right in, Sam. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Sam, tell us about your background. Tell us how you got into SEO.
Yeah, so I've always been fascinated by puzzles of any sort, whether it's like a little cube or pieces of cardboard or, competing with search engines to try and outrank your competitors. In the late 90s, my mom started an eBay business and I started learning to build websites about the same time. So, learning to write descriptions and titles and content that hooks people, and then simultaneously learning how to put up a website and get that to show up in the handful of search engines that were floating around at the time, kind of coalesced. And so over the years, I did a little bit of both and eventually fell firmly into the SEO camp and have been doing pretty much nothing but SEO for probably the last 12 years.
So what do you find are like some of the biggest technical issues when you walk into someone's website that you can correct that makes a huge difference for them?
I'd say at the moment, one of the biggest ones is probably page speed. So Google over the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, they've started making a serious emphasis on the mobile experience, right? As more and more people globally come online and more users are on mobile devices, they want to make sure that you have a really good mobile experience. And, it's fairly simple to make your site like visually mobile, right? Shrink everything down and make it clickable. But most people don't realize that speed is also a huge part of that mobile experience. And so early last year, Google started switching to what they call their mobile first indexing. So they now completely ignore the desktop version of a website and only analyze and weight the mobile experience. So if your mobile experience is bad, your rankings are bad everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so true. And you would think like in the last 5 years, mobile has been the big. So if most people have a responsive website, which means it shrinks to your screen, but I'm finding more and more, like I just was on a country music artist. He won the Nashville Star or whatever. I was on his website and I could not believe he only had a desktop version. You had to zoom in to see anything. And I was just like, who did his website? Like he won Nashville Star. He's got huge producers and people that are helping him with his country music. And he doesn't even have a mobile version of his website. I was like, wow. So there's more to it than just making sure it shrinks to your screen. You really got to make sure it's fast and all those things you just said.
Yeah.
Optimize.
And most people don't even realize just not only how big a deal it is, but how easy it is to slow down a site, right? You take a photo with your camera and it's 12 megapixels, 20 megapixels, whatever, and you just upload it to your site. And you got this big photo and on the screen, it looks like it's the right size, but the file size is enormous.
Yeah.
And, so little things, right? Using an image that's pre-shrunk to the right size or making sure that you have different image sizes for different devices, like little things like that can make a pretty astonishing difference, actually.
Yeah. And people just don't know. And so they wonder, how come people aren't going to my site? Well, it takes like a minute to load your page. They're going to leave.
You've got about 3 seconds. If something isn't on the screen and your site, if it doesn't look like it's about to be ready to use at about the 3-second mark, people are gone.
Yeah.
I read that somewhere and I was like, wow, you only get 3 seconds, you know,
Yeah.
just for them to take a look. And if they don't even like what they see on that homepage or whatever page they're clicking on when they first go to, if it's not interesting or it's not fast, they're gone. You
Gone.
just, we say
And if
that.
you got, yeah, and if you got that person there through a paid ad or a promotion of some kind, like
Yeah.
you just burned your money.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. Well, what would you say the second thing is? So pictures and mobile friendly is number one. What would you say the second thing is that you find that people need to fix on their websites?
So on the technical side, I would say, making sure that the site is crawlable, like Google can
Mm-hmm.
actually reach all the content that's there and it's
Mm-hmm.
well connected. In a lot of cases, people will have, duplicate content, like technical errors that send Google down rabbit holes to pages that aren't supposed to actually exist, or duplicate copies of stuff. Like that sort of
Mm-hmm.
messy technical architecture piece is another
Mm-hmm.
really common issue. I'd say the third one, which is not technical at all, though, is just the quality of content. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Office Space
Mm-hmm.
and the whole meme of like the minimum number of pieces of flair. But I feel like most people, in terms of content, only put in the minimum pieces of flair. They, how many words? What's the minimum number of words I can write to get away with Google? Oh, 200 words, 400 words. Okay, so I'm going to do a 400-word post. I'm going to put one of those up a couple times a week, and I'll be good, right? Like that's all I need to
Mm-hmm.
do, and that's not all you need to do.
Right. Right. So it really is that content is king. You really got to have
Content
that content.
Yes, content really is king, and it comes down to understanding your audience extremely well and knowing how to use words to solve their problems. Because, if you have some words, but they're not the right words, that's no good. One of
Right.
the
So,
changes that,
mm-hmm.
that Google just made, they just released an update called BERT, and it's what they call a core algorithm update. So it's a change to the way that they actually process and weight all of their search queries. And this one in particular was around Google doing a much, much, much better job of understanding the actual intent behind a phrase. So, sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's not clear. And on those less clear queries, Google tried to get the gist of it and show a mix of things that might be a good fit. And now they're much better at matching precisely. So if your content doesn't match precisely with the intent of that query, you're even less likely today to get traffic from it. So you need to be very, very careful and precise with your
Wow.
content.
So unless you're a really good writer, you really need to hire a copywriter for your website. You need to have someone who knows words, who understands how to share that message, right?
Definitely, yeah, you can't wing it when it comes to quality content.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a copywriter, but it's a copywriter and researcher that knows SEO that can do the words. Because you can have anybody write stuff and they think it looks pretty and sounds wonderful, but if they're not using the right searchable words, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it, right? And there are a lot of tools you can use that help with that. I mean, one of my favorites is called Answer the Public. So you can drop in a phrase and it'll give you like a mind map of all of the questions that people ask surrounding that phrase. And then you can go to Google and do a search for the same phrase and look at the things ranking in the top few positions and read that content. And you can get a really good idea of exactly what it is Google thinks is answering this query.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can take that and combine it and create content on your own site that's just stellar.
I love that. And it's
I
called
love
Answer the
that.
People.
Answer
Answer
the
the
public.
public.
Oh, Answer the Public.
See, like that's a great ninja tip. We are always looking for good ninja tips
Yeah.
that we can
That's
share
great.
with everybody.
Yeah, so take notes on that one for sure. So let's talk about we were saying searchable words. So let's talk about that. Let's dive into keywords. So how important are keywords? How important is keyword loaded content and keyword phrases? Tell us about keywords.
So keywords matter a lot. Google's really looking for like topics and themes, and the keywords are representations of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you could have a page about pizza, but there are a lot of different questions that might or might not lead there. If somebody wants to know how to make pizza, then a recipe page is a good match. If somebody's hungry for pizza, then a restaurant site is a good match.
Mm-hmm.
And so the words you use in your content give context that helps Google match up the intent with your site. So with keywords in particular, you need to understand exactly how people are searching and also why they're searching for those things and try and get to the intent behind it, so you know how to write content that really meshes with that. And, we're long past the days where you have to have like a certain number of keywords, a certain number of times on your page. But, at the end of the day, like it needs to be very clear. If somebody's reading the page, it's obviously about this topic and does a good job of covering it, because Google can get that at this point quite clearly.
How do you go ahead,
go
Jeff.
ahead. I was just going to say, so talking about the keywords, so I know some of the terms, but some people might not know. But how important are meta tags or meta description and all the back end of the title, description, and keywords? How important are those on the back end of a website?
Sure. So the title tag is still pretty important. The meta description, less so. Meta keywords, not at all. And essentially what each of those do, so your title tag is the name of the page, and it's also the thing that shows up first in your search result. That big bolded blue line is your title tag.
Yeah.
Correct. And right under that, you would have the text that's usually your meta description, although sometimes Google chooses to rewrite that on the fly. And then you have the URL underneath that, right? So those are the three pieces that are in your direct control that you can optimize so that when somebody sees it on a search result, it's very clear that you're answering their query. And what you see from most sites, if you do a search for almost anything, you'll see a page full of stuff that looks almost the same, right? There's nothing that sets anybody apart on this page. They all follow similar patterns and stuff in similar keywords. And so as important as keywords are, and you should have them in those places, it's even more important to write something that's click inducing, almost treat it like ad text.
Right. Right. So going back to that copywriting and making it sound really good, but also that shares that message that you're trying to say.
Exactly.
So if someone is beating you out consistently on a Google search when you're searching for something, whatever it is, like pizza or publishing or whatever, and you make these changes, is it still hard to beat that other person out and take their position?
Okay, so this is the most common phrase you'll hear from an SEO, but it depends. So all else being equal, usually the site with the largest number and highest quality links pointing into their site from other people is the one that will rank the best. So assuming that you've gone through the effort to make sure that your content is equal or better than the people who are ranking ahead of you, and that you've got your technical issues dialed in, then your issue, if they're still outranking you, is probably links. They have more links than you. Exactly. They're getting links. They're getting links faster.
What that means. So like as a layman, I don't know what that means. How getting links from someone else, what does that mean?
So if you read an article on like the New York Times and you're reading through it and there's a link is the little clickable thing, hey, as we were researching this study and it links out to that study over there, that's a link. And so Google's original thesis, the backbone of their search engine when they started building it was what they called PageRank. And it was essentially a means of weighting links from site to site based on the trust and authority of each of those sites. So a link coming from a high profile site like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or a government domain are treated with a lot more authority than a site from whatever.wordpress.org. And so they built their search engine based off that concept of trust flowing through and topics flowing through these links from place to place. And so if you have a site and it's about a certain topic, it would look good if other sites that covered that topic or were related topically linked to you, and it would look bad if nobody linked to you at all. Those links are essentially endorsements. It's somebody else, a neutral third party, hopefully, saying you're an awesome resource for this topic. And if you don't have any of that, then Google has a hard time knowing that you're trustworthy and should be showing up for anything.
Yeah, so some people call them backlinks, right? Some people call them link building or
backlinks, inlinks, external links, all mean the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's essentially your website, your .com that is on all these other places online that people can click on and go back to your site.
Yep, and that's how Google, finds you and connects things together. They crawl through the web. They have a little piece of code that goes from site to site and follows every link and stores all the data and the connections and builds just a giant relationship map of everything online and how it connects together.
So how do you start that? You're a new business starting out, you're creating your site on WordPress, and you're like, all right, now how do I get other people? I just started having this business and it's been in business for 6 months. How do I get other people to write about my company and put backlinks in there?
I mean, the simplest way is just to ask There are a lot of tools that'll let you look at other websites and extract their links. So, all right, here's my competitor. I'm going to punch in their web address, and I'm going to pull out a list of all of the places that link to them. And then you can go in and look at that list and see who linked, and then go to those sites and say, all right, is there a way for me to write a guest post here, or are they covering a topic? Could I just ask for a link? Could I trade them in some fashion? But the the most effective way to do link building is still one-to-one for the most part. The second most effective, which is hit and miss, right, is the concept of virality. Like creating content that's so good that it gets a lot of play. A lot of people want to link to it for whatever reason. It could be controversial, it could be exceptional, but that's a lot harder to engineer. So the one-to-one outreach tends to be more effective.
Right. So let's talk about, you mentioned a minute ago about a map. So let's talk about a sitemap. And a lot of people won't know what that is, but do you use sitemaps, and do you help your clients make sure they have a sitemap on their website?
Sure. So a sitemap is a good way to list out all of the content that exists on your site. It's essentially a shortcut for search engines. So they'll look to see if they can find a sitemap that'll show them where all the content is on your site. And then they'll still proceed to crawl through your site link to link, as well as from your sitemap, and then kind of compare notes. And in some cases, you end up with what's called orphaned content. Like maybe you created a page on the site, but you never actually linked to it from anywhere. So Google will see, you mentioned this page in your sitemap, and that's the only way we can find it, but you don't actually link to it anywhere else. So that's one useful thing you could get from a sitemap, is that it gives Google access to something that's not otherwise linked to.
But then it also goes back to what you were saying, which is if you have duplicate content, or you have extra pages that you don't want people to see, but you didn't delete them, you just don't have a link in your menu, but it's still there, that's where you need to clean up your website. And like what you were talking about earlier, you can't have those things, because it does make it, you look not as good. Or if it's old news, or if it's old, like I know people who will have a pricing website or pricing page, which is their old pricing, and now they have a new page with the new pricing, and they didn't just edit the pricing page, they have it called something else. But people can still find that because they didn't delete the page.
Yeah, and there's a sequence of things you should be doing, right? You need to make sure that you're not linking internally to anything that's duplicate or low quality. You should make sure that your sitemap only contains URLs that are high quality and deserve to be ranking and are unique. And then you need to, if you take down a page or change a page or build a new copy of a page at a different URL, you should be setting up redirects, which is just a little piece of code that says this used to be here and now it's over here, and helps Google to pass whatever SEO signals were associated with the old page to the new page.
Yeah, so let's talk about URLs really quick. So URL is the address, right, that people type in or that you're clicking on. So how important is it for all these people that are doing blogs and have WordPress and making all these pages and doing all this content on their website? How important is it to title your page the right way and have the right address or the right URL, or the slug, as some people might have call it? How important is that?
It still matters a lot because it's clearly visible on search result pages. And it's also clearly visible in the browser bar when you're on your site. And it helps not only people, but search engines to really understand what the page is about. Because Google, what they're looking for in all of these different places is consistency. If this page is about this topic, then I would expect to find the topic mentioned in this spot, in this spot, in this spot. The title tag, the URL, the meta description, the heading of the page, the content of the page. And if it's not there, if it's inconsistent, then that waters down the signal on the page, and Google's less sure about what the topic is or should be.
Right. So does it matter how long it is? Like, what if you have a blog post that's like 10 words and then you didn't change the URL? So it's 10, it's your website.com/ and then 10 words. Does that matter?
Google has like a hard limit of, I want to say it's 1,024 characters. So you could have a pretty long URL, but they have a soft limit of a little over 100 characters. Show your URL up to this length before it gets chopped off in the search result page. So shorter is generally better. It should be, short and punchy and clear. Somebody should be able to glance at your URL and understand exactly what the page is about.
Awesome. What about reviews, Google reviews? Does it help your ranking when you have, and is there, like in book reviews, we always say the goal is to get to 50. Once you're above 50, then magic starts to happen. They start to promote you more. Is there a magic number in Google reviews on your Google map?
Not directly. Google's, like, the reviews tend to help your click-through. and your the click-through rate on a search result does seem to be a signal of some sorts to Google. So, you have all these rankings stacked together. If people are skipping 1 and 2 and clicking directly on 3, and it's 3 that has the highest number of reviews, then it's a bit of a correlation and not necessarily like causation from Google's end. So it's not that you have that many reviews that's being weighted to help you, but more that, it stands out as a high quality thing. But to some degree, the number and quality of reviews seem to be a signal, at least for local search results.
Okay. Awesome. Well, let's talk about your book a little bit. So Screw the Zoo, what is that all about?
So, ever since I was a little kid, I've been more than a bit obsessed with the idea of freedom. I don't like feeling trapped, and being trapped can take a lot of forms. I mean, sometimes you're physically trapped, but most of the time you're just mentally trapped. And a lot of those mental traps are programmed into you from an early age. Ramit Sethi calls them invisible scripts, the things that everybody around you says and you just take for granted. And so, I got into psychology, philosophy, psychedelics, business, a lot of different areas, and realized that there's an enormous part of our reality that is highly malleable and no one's aware of it. And so Screw the Zoo is more or less a book about finding which rules can be bent and which rules can be broken, to steal a line from Morpheus.
I love it. Well, I love the cover. We already talked about the cover, but go check his book out, Screw the Zoo. The cover is amazing. I've never seen one like it. I think it's so cool.
Thank you.
Well, tell us, Sam, where can people go to find you, find out more about you, and hire you for your SEO expertise?
Yeah, so I do all my SEO work through my company, Voodoo Marketing, so VUDU marketing.com. I do SEO training at myseocourse.com, and I have a free mini training course on there if anybody wants to get their toes wet and see what SEO is all about. But if you want to reach me directly, I'm most active on Twitter at Sams_antics. I'm on there way too much.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, we'll put those links up, and we'll have you have it in the podcast notes. And thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure.
So check Sam out, and also make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And remember, we're sponsored by Elite Online Publishing. Go there, eliteonlinepublishing.com, if you'd like to write a book and become a best-selling author, and we'll teach you how to use your book for your business and increase your revenue. So we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to create the most powerful advertising tool for your business, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, where we will help you create, publish, and make your book a #1 bestseller, and show you how to get new leads and more revenue for your business. If you'd like to check us out on our Facebook page, we have a free book for you as our gift. Just go and click Free Book. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment for our podcast. We would love to hear from you.